Where Helen and Tim travel, a husband and wife duo based in the Pacific Northwest with the goal to see the world one mountain at a time. Our next adventure brings us to Olympic National Park in Washington State, where we backpack the high divide Seven Lakes Basin loop across 19 miles and 4,000 feet of elevation.
I'm excited to get out of this traffic. This Portland traffic gets us every time when we try to leave town. So once we're out of it, and it ends, we know exactly where it ends too. And that's right by the interstate bridge. And the moment you cross the bridge, there's no traffic.
So we are on our way to drop our girls off at the sitter. It always makes me really sad when we can't bring them along on our adventure. We are heading to a national park, so we cannot bring them along with us. So this weekend we are heading up to the Seven Lakes Basin area. Friday is calling for a little bit of rain and cloudiness, so hopefully we'll get some clearing and some great views on the mountaintop. We have about a 6.5 hour drive from the Portland area. We'll check back in with you later.
Gazing at the blue of the night, stars are filling up the sky. You take my hand in yours.
Yep, we'll probably do 12 or 13 miles is our estimate, but we're not quite sure, so we'll just keep walking until we find it.
So we've started our hike. It is about 7:30. So last night we drove in pretty late. So we went through Port Angeles, that's the major town right before the turnoff into the Sol Duc Road area. We stayed at Sol Duc's campground. We pulled in about 10:30. It was pretty dark. We did find a spot. So if you're in this area, highly recommend staying at Sol Duc campground, especially if you're hiking the Seven Lakes Basin area. And yeah, it's gonna be a great day. We're gonna be in the forest for a little while longer, but pretty soon it's gonna open up into this grand alpine wilderness, and we are so excited. Found a little shelter. Cool.
Kind of periodically you'll come across them in the Pacific Northwest. They're just kind of scattered throughout. You can seek shelter in them if you have inclement weather. So one thing that you might notice whenever you hike in the Olympics is that there's a high humidity. And that's because the Olympic Peninsula is right next to the ocean. So love it or hate it, definitely some sweating going on. We had to shed our hats about 20 minutes ago. We're only about 45 minutes into the hike so far, but if you come here from like the Cascades, you'll notice a big difference. Cascades, humidity is not bad at all. Olympics, you better plan for it.
So Tim thinks that tree looks like it has a bare butt. Oh, it does look like a butt.
It does look like a butt, for sure.
We are coming upon lake number 1. This is gonna be Deer Lake.
It's like my soul is set on fire.
The Olympics get us every time. The moderate rain is only less than 0.04 inches all throughout the day, so we're hoping that it stays clear.
In 1988, Congress designated 95% of Olympic National Park as wilderness.
I'm struggling a bit today because of this humidity, and the last couple of weeks I was fighting a cold and finally got better earlier this week, but I can definitely still feel my lingering effects of it, and it's just way harder to breathe right now, you know? It takes time for the body to heal.
Say hi. Little switchback section.
A permit is required for all overnight stays in the Olympic National Park wilderness areas. You can obtain a permit at recreation.gov. The permit's released on a 6-month rolling basis, so you can get it 6 months before. We hiked in August, so we booked in February. Make sure to check the website for current permit information and pricing and what is required. When we obtained a permit, it was about $8 per person and a $6 processing fee.
Out of those two, if they're both open, do you think this one?
This one has more privacy, then this one is more meadowy.
Okay.
So it kind of would, if you want to be, I'd say the upper one, the one before the creek crossing, is more meadowy and just scenic.
Well, we just had our lunch at Bogachiel Peak, and we were overlooking Seven Lakes Basin. It was a wonderful view. The clouds have been kind of rolling in and out on us, and unfortunately, Mt Olympus is still hiding behind us, but maybe later on, hopefully it will lift if we get lucky. We got about 4 more miles to the campsite, and it's going to be a fairly easy stroll.
So you might have heard that I mentioned the High Divide Trail, and that's essentially the midpoint of the Seven Lakes Basin loop. So the midpoint and the highest point of the trail, which provides some incredible views. You can see Bogachiel Peak, Mt Olympus, the glaciers on Mt Olympus, all the way through the Hoh River Valley, of course on a clear day, Bailey Range, and also the Sol Duc Valley.
Territory. Where are the mountain goats? Where are the animals? So we were hoping to see some wildlife this weekend, but we ran into a ranger earlier on the Bogachiel Peak. I can't say. Bogachiel Peak. Bogachiel, whatever.
Bogachiel.
We'll put the spelling underneath.
Bogachiel. Bogachiel.
Okay.
That's it.
Let's not keep trying.
All right.
So we ran into a ranger earlier, and he said this summer specifically, there weren't a lot of bears because it's been so hot that the huckleberry haven't been able to fully grow to its maturity. So huckleberries, it's like Pacific Northwest fruit that bears love, and without the abundance of huckleberries, there hasn't been that many bears either. So
Check out this. Oh, I hope these clouds lift. So Mount Olympus is right out there, dead ahead, somewhere in the clouds hiding. You can see that marine layer sitting down the valley. And we are gonna head this way.
The Seven Lakes Basin Loop is one of the most popular backcountry hiking trails in all of Olympic National Park. So you can imagine there were quite a few people on the trail as well.
Tim trying to run to beat the clouds. I'm not fast enough today, so not gonna happen.
All right, so we made it to Heart Lake at 4,700 feet, and the fog has obviously rolled in as we came down into the to this little bowl here. So we'll see if it lifts or not. We're not quite sure, but we're gonna go play around at Heart Lake for a little bit.
We're gonna
rinse off.
Yeah, clean off. Pretty sweaty. Sunscreen, bug spray, and we're a mile
and a half to the campsite.
So we're staying at Lower Bridge
Creek.
We have the rest of the day. It's about 2:20. We're just gonna hang out at the lake first and then go to the campsite. Otherwise, we're just gonna be doing a whole lot
Sitting
of nothing.
around the campsite, yeah.
Which is fine with me. I'm just gonna do that and eat because I'm hungry again. Classic being dirty.
Classic.
Actually, this is not very common this time of year to have fog.
In the Olympics it is.
Yeah, I guess so.
So we've just arrived at Sol Duc Park, which is another one of the kind of campsite areas. We decided, just from where our campsite is at Lower Bridge Creek, we decided to go counterclockwise rather than clockwise because we wanted our first day to be our longest day, and then our second day we won't have to do as many miles, so we can get out earlier and head back to Portland because that's like a 6-hour drive. So
well, we're gonna check out some other places.
yeah, and we might check out a couple other places, which stay tuned.
What'd you find?
You know, we're not far from here. We could actually come up and go for a swim.
You mean you can go for a swim?
I could sit in this chair for 1,000 years and watch the woods consume the neighborhood. Watch the ambitions come and go, surround me and we could ditch the TV and spend a little more time reading books and singing songs on the porch.
His and hers. I'm doing the chicken and coconut curry. Tim is doing the chili mac. I actually can't do spicy, and especially in the backcountry, and that is not going to be good. So, going to stick with the safe option of chicken.
All right, gonna make dinner.
So what do we have for dessert?
Peak Refuels Cookie Bites. Peanut butter, chocolate chip cookie bites. Not bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they could probably pass us. Our dogs would probably eat them, minus giving them chocolate. So. Oh my, it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be soft and chewy.
Like once you bite through half of it.
Oh, maybe if you let them sit in your mouth, they'll like
soften up.
Soften up.
Oh, that's a strategy.
Not bad, not bad. So we are pretty much, I think, done for the night. We are going to go hide the bear barrel. Hide meaning put it somewhere far away from our tent, since we have lots of yummy food. And I think we're gonna go chill out in the tent for a little while and probably just crash by the time it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's about 7 o'clock right now. There's nothing much else to do once the sun goes down. We're pretty much wanting to go to bed, and likely we'll be up right at the crack of dawn.
Yep.
This is always the hardest part of camping, is getting out of bed. Actually, that's like the hardest part of any of our mornings. During the weekdays, we get up at 4:30. Don't ask me why, but at least during camping, it's 6 a.m. and that's sleeping in for us. We got some fresh animal tracks. Looks like some deer came through our camp last night. That's cool. Oh, I love animals so much.
I wanted to take a few moments to recognize the original stewards of the land of the Olympic National Park. These 8 tribes include the Hoh, the Jamestown Sklalum, Elwha Sklalum, Maaka, Port Gamble Sklalum, Quileute, Quinault, and the Skokomish people. I'll definitely drop a link so you can learn more about each of these tribes. Some fun facts about Olympic National Park: it was first established on June 29, 1938 as a national park. It receives over 2.5 million visitors each year. The entire park sits on almost 1 million acres across 70 miles of wild coastline. It has 60 named glaciers and over 3,000 miles of rivers and streams.
So we are at the split. We have 1 mile left. As you see, earlier yesterday when we started, we went towards Sol Duc Falls and did a counterclockwise loop.
Good. We're back. 19. Hey, we're back at the car finally. We did 19 miles, and as I check Gaia, 19.2 miles.
We are so glad that we beat the fog and got to see the upper alpine. We did see glimpses of Mt Olympus, which was great, and also we saw the glacier fields from a distance. Overall, I would say I would rate this hike an 8 out of 10. Definitely one to see in the Olympics. I think if I ever did it again, I would just do it as a day hike and go lightweight pack and try to catch clear windows along the way, because I think that would make a huge difference.
And the total ascent was about 4,200 feet for us and 19.2 miles. It was relatively easy. There was a lot of steps getting down to the actual Sol Duc River Valley. So we actually decided that going counterclockwise was best for us.
Yeah. It also honestly depends on where your campsite is as well.
It does. It definitely does.
But if you're doing it as a day hike, go counterclockwise. I cannot recommend that enough, especially all these steps and the rocks that you face going up through the valleys and down through the valleys.
So what would you say was your favorite part of the trail?
Definitely the high divide where you see all the mountain ranges. We saw low clouds that it just made for a really, really beautiful ambiance. I would say just the high divide section was my favorite. Obviously, that's like the highlight of the trip.
I would agree that the high divide trail was my favorite part too. And I really enjoyed it because you get to look down into the Hoh River Valley, actually to the south from here, and you can see Mt Olympus. On a clear day, you could see all of it. Luckily we got bits and pieces of it because the clouds were kind of rolling in and out on us.
So now we are on our way out to Forks, Washington. We might stop by for a little coffee, a little pick-me-up, and then we're going to end our day in Ruby Beach and then make the long drive home to Portland. We are driving through Forks right now, and I saw while I was browsing through Google Maps to find a place to get some coffee
They have a Twilight Museum, which is totally amazing, and also probably something I wouldn't go see, especially with Tim here, but they have a museum of all the Twilight costumes that were used in the Twilight Saga film. So if I was on my own, I would totally go check that out, but definitely won't be doing it on this trip, sadly. We are walking down to Ruby Beach right now. See the big old waves crashing? Definitely ones.
It's a beautiful spot.
Yeah,
sure.
beautiful spot. I'm a surfer and I definitely won't want to surf those waves. They definitely look a little sketchy.
All right, so we made it down here to Ruby Beach. As you can see, there's some beautiful rocks behind us.
Pretty crowded. It's a Saturday around 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is the peak, especially in the summertime. So we are wrapping up our trip here in the Olympia National Park this weekend. I'm sad that we're heading home, but we have got a long drive ahead of us. So our last stop was Ruby Beach. I highly recommend it. It's a nice walkable beach, very family friendly. So it is located on the northwestern side of the peninsula. So if you're in the Hoh Rainforest area, the Sol Duc Park area, highly recommend a stop. On our way home to Portland, we made a quick pit stop in Olympia, Washington. So we've been following Ember Goods, Nick Terrell's work on Instagram for a very long time, long before we moved to the Pacific Northwest. We actually bought one of his woodworking mountain pictures, and it's hanging up in our living room. And so when we found out he was opening a store with a coffee shop, we were like, okay, one day we're gonna have to visit it. And I got the honey lavender latte, and it is absolutely delicious. I got it iced with oat milk. I highly recommend it. If you're passing through the Olympics or anywhere in this area, please make a stop, support his local business and his art.